Your reporting on the first day will be at 6 a.m. When you reach the Karyappa Dwar, first thing that will happen is the checking of your COVID documents. So each one of you must have a hard copy of double vaccination certificate or RT-PCR report. Either of the two is enough. Thereafter you undergo thermal scanning and then you get entry into the SSB. Once inside, checking of your technical documents as per the call-up instructions takes place. So please go through the call-up instructions very, very carefully. Best would be look at each other's documents. Any variation in your document will catch your eye straight away and corrective action can be taken. After the checking of documents will be your breakfast break. So in the morning, don't worry about food there. You will get a very good breakfast break. And after that, the breakfast break will be your first test of the stage 1 testing, which is called Officers Intelligence Rating Test. My advice to you, aspirants, is please know the full form of all these abbreviations and the testing procedures of the SSB very, very carefully. Officers Intelligence Rating. You are aware, 2 booklets are given to you, one after the other. First booklet contains questions ranging from 50 to 60. The second booklet will contain questions ranging from 40 to 50. Time allocated for each booklet is exactly half the number of questions in that booklet. So how much time for each question? 30 seconds. In those 30 seconds, you are expected to pick up the correct options out of 4 given for a question and shade it in the OMR sheet that will be provided to you. Now, if you know the answer, 30 seconds is a long time. But if you don't know the answer, don't waste your time. Any time more than 30 seconds that you spend on a question is at the cost of some simpler questions which are waiting for you ahead. You will be never able to reach there. Also, don't leave that question blank. I've seen candidates what they think. They think, yeah, pehle pura kar lete hain, then we'll come back and see this question. Now, if you leave a question blank, there is a hazard. You might miss out on seniority. And if you miss out on seniority, you can do nothing about it because the machine does not accept any erasers, cutting or overwriting. So my advice to you would be, if you do not know the answer to a question, take an intelligent guess. If your guess is actually an intelligent guess, 90% of the time it is as good as correct. Even if it is not correct, there is no harm done. Why?
No negative marking.
There is no negative marking. So the mantra of doing well in the OIR test is attempt all the questions. More questions you attempt, more right answers you get. More right answers you get, better OIR you will get. And how important is this OIR in your selection procedure? I will talk about it a little later. Once you have finished both the booklets, raw scores of both the booklets are added mechanically and based on an algorithm which should not bother you. A rating is generated which is called Officers Intelligence Rating. And the range of this rating is from
1 to 5.
1 to 5. 1 is the best, 5 is the worst. To get OIR 1, you have got to be not only intelligent, you have got to be really quick in your responses. I have seen candidates with medium level of intelligence, provided they are quick in their responses, have better chances of doing well in the OIR than a candidate who is very intelligent but slow in his responses. After the OIR test, the second test of the stage 1 testing is conducted in 2 parts. Part 1 is the picture perception, part 2 is the discussion test. Now for the picture perception part, whole lot of candidates who are reporting tomorrow morning will be sitting in a big hall. Now good thing in the SSB aspirants is that before they start up any testing procedure, A very detailed briefing is given. So, everybody is on the same page. There is no room for any doubt left in anybody's mind. A detailed briefing by the psychologist about the conduct of this picture perception test will be given to you. You will be given an A4 size answer sheet. In that A4 size answer sheet, there is a rectangle drawn. A word action is typed beside this rectangle. You will be told that this rectangle of your answer sheet is replica of the screen on which a picture is going to be projected. Picture will be projected for a period of 30 seconds. I'm afraid the picture is not going to be a very clear-cut picture. It will be a little hazy and vague picture. This is done on purpose. What do you think is the purpose of this?
Perception. A different time.
They want your imagination to take a flight. How you perceive that picture is dependent upon your own value systems. How you perceive that picture is dependent upon how you have been brought up. How you perceive that picture is also dependent upon how have been the experiences of your life. So each one of you will perceive that picture a little differently. But as long as the perception is truly your perception, it is not a preconceived idea or a borrowed story, it is the best perception. But unfortunately, what happens? Each one of you has worked very hard for this day. So you practice quite a lot. These days, a lot of pictures are shown on the YouTube. A lot of pictures are shown to you during your coaching period in the training academies. Also, you see a lot of pictures in the books that you refer to for your preparation. That Natarajan Wali Kitab. So, the moment you see the picture looks familiar to you. And your mind starts thinking of the story that you've read. This is a very grave error you are committing. Remember, in those 30 seconds when the picture is on the screen, howsoever familiar it may be to you, please observe it in a very systematic and organized manner. Like a scanner does when you put a document for scanning. It goes from left to right and quickly comes down and reproduces the image. In the similar manner with your eyes, look at the picture from one end to the other and keep coming down. Each detail that you will observe in that picture will give you some input. Understand what is happening in the picture. How many characters are there? What is their gender, age, and mood? Now, if you're systematic, if you're organized in your observation, you will get inputs. After 30 seconds, the picture will go blank, and then lights come up. Now you are required to indicate those characters as you saw them on the screen in that rectangle of your answer sheet. You have seen somebody on the top left on the screen, put a dot on the top left. Somebody on the center of the screen, put a dot in the center of your rectangle. Somebody on the right side, put a dot on the right side. But what happens if you see very many characters in the picture? Let us see, you see a crowd. Don't put too many dots here. Sir, मैंने भीड़ देखी है. Why? For each character that you put in this rectangle, you are required to put in 3 informations. So more are the number of dots, more time you will need. And dear aspirants, time is at premium. Therefore, my advice to you is identify 2 or at best 3 major characters in that crowd and put them down on this rectangle. Now, what are these 3 information that you will put below the dots? Tell me.
Sir, gender, age, mood.
Jam. If you can remember jam, I'm sure your mouth will water and you can put down the thing correctly. Jam, gender. G is for gender. 3 options for gender. What are these?
Sir, male, female, and
Person. So, male, female, and person. If you can't identify the gender of the character, don't worry, write P. Do not write full M-A-L-E. Write only M, F, or P. Either of the 3. Alright? You will be wasting your time otherwise. Second thing of the jam is age. Now, for writing the age, you are permitted to use a small age group. Like we speak in Hindi, कितनी उम्र है? 20-25 साल की उम्र होगी यार, 18-20 साल की उम्र होगी. In the similar manner, you can write an age group because the picture is hazy, looks are deceptive. So very difficult to be exact about the age. So use a small age group. Only caution is let the range of this age group be not more than 5 years. And the third thing of JAM is mood. And the options for mood are
Positive, negative, neutral.
positive, negative and neutral. Use 3 mathematical symbols, plus sign, minus sign or 0. Thereafter, you have to fill up that word action. Action is nothing but the theme of your story, crux of your story. Never ever write a sentence for action. Write few words. Example, school annual day function, NCC camp, blood donation camp, family celebration, accident scene, hospital scene, plantation drive, whatever is the theme of your story. Thereafter, aspirants, you will have 4 minutes to write a story. And in these 4 minutes, you are expected to write 3 paragraphs. Now, each paragraph of your story must answer a question. When I read the first paragraph of your story, I must get to know what led to the situation. Second paragraph must tell me what is happening in the picture. And the third paragraph must tell me what is the future outcome. So there is past, present and the future. What you see in the picture is present. What you are perceiving is past and the future. Don't ever think of problems, complications, negativities in the life of your hero to make him a superhero. Keep it simple, something that may have happened in your life or in the life of people around you, maybe your friends or your siblings. Some subjects that I am cautioning you to avoid very, very deliberately in your story writing, I call these subjects as prohibited subjects. And what are these prohibited subjects? First and foremost is suicide. Nobody in your picture should be thinking of suicide. I will advise you, don't use this word suicide at all ever in your story. Second is drugs, rape, murder, theft, terrorist activities. But unfortunately, these are the only activities that you hear every day, or you read when you open the newspaper. So your mind is naturally thinking about them. And I am saying deliberately avoid them. Now, in 4 minutes, how much can you really write? Maybe about 10 to 12 sentences if you are very quick in your writing. So the composition suggested for your story is about 3 to 4 sentences for the past, 3 to 4 sentences for the present, and 3 to 4 sentences for the future. Whatever you write, please make sure you write grammatically correct English. Do not use WhatsApp language. Do not use slangs like mom, dad, bro, sis, guys. Proper English dictionary words to be used. Do not commit silly spelling mistakes. Your handwriting aspirants may not be very flowery, but it should be legible. पढ़ने में आनी चाहिए. After 4 minutes, your story sheets will be deposited, and thereafter you will be divided into groups. Generally, the strength of a group will vary from 15 to 20 maximum, depending upon how many candidates are reporting for that entry. And thereafter, you will be given a break. During a break, I have seen what happens. Candidates start discussing their stories. Oh, yaar, kitne character liye? What is the gender, age and mood of your character? What is the action of your story? Past, present and the future. And when you discuss your stories, what happens? They are different. Doubts start creeping in your mind. यार मैंने ये लिखा है, ये बंदा ये बोल रहा है, कि मेरी स्टोरी गलत तो नहीं हो गई? This doubt that you create, self-doubt that you create in your mind that your story may have gone wrong, it's actually self-destructive. It lowers your confidence. या मेरी स्टोरी गलत हो गई. It also prompts you to do something silly, like changing your story while narrating it. There's a myth in the minds of the candidates that your story sheets are not read. It is incorrect. So my advice to you would be, please do not discuss your stories. Your perception is your perception. My perception is my perception. During that break, organize your thoughts. Remember, after the break, you will be required to narrate your story that you have written in 4 minutes time, about half an hour, 45 minutes back, in a matter of 1 minute to your group. So, think what you're going to speak. Remember, aspirants, the narration of the story is 80% of your assessment in the stage 1. If you can narrate your story in a confident, in a fluent, in a crisp manner, in a voice which is well modulated. And what is the modulated voice? That goes up and down in sinusoidal curves. Then you make an impact. After the break, you will be sitting in a huge semicircle, up to 20 candidates. Hall is very big. There are 3 assessors sitting in front. There will be an interviewing officer like me, a GTO and a psychologist. Now GTO will again brief you about the conduct of this testing procedure called discussion test. He will tell you that each candidate will have 1 minute to narrate his story. The narration will start from the lowest chest number, go in a numeric sequence till the final chest number has finished his narration. Thereafter, the group will automatically start the process of discussion. And aim of the discussion would be to arrive at a group consensus story. Now, during this part of the testing procedure, dear aspirants, your body language has a lot of say. How you sit in your chair, or even though your faces are covered with the mask that you will be wearing, but your eyes, the way you sit in your chair, gives me some input about your personality. I've seen a lot of candidates sitting out there, they are under a lot of stress. चेहरे पे हवाइयाँ उड़ी होती हैं. क्यों? मेरी डिलीवरी होने वाली है यार अभी. I have to narrate this story. You have prepared for this day. You have put in a lot of efforts. So have faith in your preparations. Remain confident. Be seated in your chair in a very calm and composed manner with your back rested. Don't do any untoward activities. I have seen a lot of candidates have this habit of shaking their legs. ऐसे ऐसे करते रहते हैं. Lot of them will put their hands here. फिर वो तबला बजाते हैं ऐसे. Some put their hands like this, twiddling of fingers, thumb. बाबा रामदेव के चेले ऐसे भी करते रहते हैं. See, you are under observation. Please do not do any untoward activities. Moment you do any untoward activity, attention of these assessors gets diverted to you. So my advice is, remain involved in other activities that are happening. When others are narrating their story, turn your head towards the person who is narrating the story. Listen to the story of others very, very carefully. If you hear 19 more stories in your group, you would know what is the majority in the group thinking. What the majority, how many characters has the majority selected? What is the gender, age and mood? What is the action of their story, past, present and the future? You will now be well armed for the discussion. Otherwise, if you know only your story, what will you discuss? Now, when you narrate your story, remember there are candidates sitting on your right, candidates sitting on your left. Unless you are a corner candidate. Even if there is one candidate on your left or on your right, make sure while narrating the story, you look at your group from one end to the other. You have only 1 minute to narrate your story. So maybe 2 or at best 3 scans like this, you will be able to carry out. Don't look towards the assessors. Think there is a wall between you and the assessors. That will give you confidence. Just focus on your group. While you are narrating your story, what are we 3 assessors doing out here? Observing. One of the 3 assessors goes through the story sheet that you have deposited and he marks all the mistakes that you have committed. The spelling mistakes, the grammatical mistakes. You know? So he marks them. He also hears your story. So the moment you change your story, you will get a call next. So please stick to the theme of your story that you have written. We also make our notes. Example I'll give you, I write chess number 1. Very confident, very fluent, very crisp in his narration, very well modulated voice. He has made a good impact on the group. The candidate has written a simple, pragmatic, practical oriented story. In this manner we identify the gems. इस भीड़ में हीरे कौन कौन से हैं? And during the discussion part, my focus is on those gems. Now those of you who've been through this procedure earlier would have known it, and those freshers who are going for the first time will see it tomorrow. A fish market sort of a situation erupts. Why? Everybody has been advised by the so-called defense experts. Be the leader of your group. Be the initiator of the discussion, as if some bonus will accrue to you. So, in a bid to be the initiator, in a bid to be the leader, everybody starts at the same time, because there are 20 intelligent candidates sitting there. Gentlemen, 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 and most ungentlemanly behavior you see there. A smart and an intelligent candidate, he by his body language remains involved in the activity, doesn't show disrespect, but doesn't lose his breath by shouting in the chorus. Remember, if you shout in the chorus, nobody can understand what you're saying. 80% of your assessment has got over when you finish your narration part. But that remaining 20% is very important, cannot be completed unless I hear you. So, even if you speak twice or at best thrice, provided what you speak makes an impact and sense. So, an intelligent candidate, he waits for an opportune moment. When the din is going down, that is the time when he raises his voice, and in a loud enough voice for people to hear you properly, gives out a point, helps the group to move forward in formulation of the group story. This is called positive contribution. Once you have spoken and my assessment gets completed, thereafter let me tell you very frankly, we are not interested in your group story. We were interested in your individual narrations and in your involvement in the group activity. Thereafter, even though the group has not come to some logical group story, but the assessors will tell you to leave. And then the assessors compile their assessments. Now, each assessor has 3 options to award to the candidate for his performance. And these options are yes, no, and doubtful. And they indicate it by using 3 alphabets: Y, N, and D. Y or yes is given to a candidate who writes a simple, pragmatic, practical oriented story, narrates the story in a very confident, fluent, and crisp manner in a voice which is well modulated, makes a good impact. And during the discussion, the candidate is very actively involved in the discussion part. Such a candidate will get Y. And if a candidate does not do these, he will get N. But majority in the group will get D or doubtful, which means you have done partially well. And what is partially well? While narrating the story, you are confident enough, fluent enough, make a reasonably good impact, but during the discussion, the candidate is mild. Tries to speak twice or thrice, but the group is so loud, so many loud voices are there in the group. Poor candidate is unable to express his viewpoint. After 2-3 tries, he gives up. Meri koi sunta nahi hai yaar. Such a candidate has done only partially well, and he is entitled to D. There is another variety in the group who, while narrating the story, not very fluent, they are flat toned, not very confident, but during the discussion, they are like a firebox. पटाखे के डिब्बे में एक तरफ आग लगा दी, कैसे पटर 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 बोलता है. Give out very intelligent suggestions, and the group is able to reach some logical group story because of the contribution of this candidate. Such a candidate also has now done partially well, and he is also entitled to D. So the compilation takes place. The psychologist gives out the chess number of the candidate, gives out his own assessment, followed by GTO, followed by IO. And then these assessments are recorded. Give you an example. Psychology says, test number 1. My assessment is, let us say, N. GTO, N. IO, D. It is recorded. Test number 1 is N, N, D. What do you think is the final outcome? See, by the time you sit down for your discussion, aspirants, results of the OIR, Officer's Intelligence Rating, have already come to the psychologist. So his full announcement is, test number 1 is N, N, D, OIR, let us say 3. Now if you are OIR 1, which is the best, 2, second best, or 3, with single D out here, your final outcome is R, recommended. But if you are OIR 4, with single D out here, your final outcome is NR, not recommended. For OIR 4 to get recommended, you need 2 Ds or a Y. See the role OIR is playing?
Yes, sir.
And for some unfortunate reason, if you fall in that bracket of OIR 5, then I'm afraid now to get screened in, you need 3 Ys, which is almost an impossible and impractical expectation. Therefore, my advice to you, dear aspirants, is take your OIR test very, very seriously. It is a simple test of your verbal and non-verbal abilities. Level of difficulty of this test is at best mediocre. For graduate level entries, actually it is low. 10th standards level is generally what is there. So getting OIR 1 or 2 is well within your grasp, provided you keep your calm, you keep your cool, you organize your time in an efficient and intelligent manner. Your results are ready by about lunchtime. But they allow you to have your lunch first, so that the taste of your mouth is not spoiled by the results and you enjoy the good lunch that the SSB provides. And after lunch, the results are announced. Those who get screened in will be taken to another hall wherein you will be filling up that personal information questionnaire, PIQ form. And majority, unfortunately, which does not get screened in, will be asked to leave. The traveling allowance for the fresher candidates these days is remitted directly to your bankers. So the dispersal will not take very long. So I hope and pray that all of you tomorrow are sitting down and filling up your PIQ form. It is well within your grasp. Nothing very great in asking. All right, now this PIQ.